James Carter spent his last savings, $45,000 from his severance, on an abandoned ranch in the mountains of Colorado. It was everything he had left after losing his job, his wife, and almost losing himself. He thought he was buying a fresh start, a safe place to rebuild his life and that of his 6-year-old daughter after everything had fallen apart. But when he came back 6 weeks later, ready to begin again, he saw smoke rising from the chimney and 2 strangers living inside the house that was supposed to save them. What happened next would change the fate of all 4 of them forever. But first he had to decide whether to follow the law or follow his heart. The gravel crunched beneath the tires of the pickup as James turned onto the dirt road. The June sun was setting over the Rocky Mountains, painting everything in shades of orange and purple that looked like a painting come to life. He had been driving for 5 hours from Denver, every muscle in his body aching, but none of that mattered now. This was the moment, their new beginning. "Is that it, Daddy?" Amelia's sleepy but excited voice came from the back seat. "Is that our house?" James smiled despite the exhaustion weighing on his shoulders. "Yes, sweetheart, that's it." He stopped mid-sentence. His hands gripped the wheel so hard his knuckles went white. Smoke. There was smoke coming from the chimney. His heart hammered against his ribs as he hit the brake, stopping the truck about 60 feet from the house. The ranch looked exactly as he remembered from the quick inspection 6 weeks earlier. Peeling white paint, sagging porch, weeds growing everywhere. But someone had been here. Someone was inside right now. "Daddy?" Amelia's voice was uncertain now, sensing his tension. "Why did we stop?" "Stay in the truck, Amelia." James's voice came out sharper than he meant. He took a deep breath and softened it. "Just for a minute, okay? Let Daddy check something, but stay right here." He squeezed her small hand, feeling her cold little fingers, then opened the door and stepped out. The evening air was chilly against his face. He could smell wood smoke now, definitely coming from inside the house. His mind raced through possibilities. Squatters, vandals, maybe some homeless people looking for shelter. He had heard stories about abandoned properties turning into drug dens. He approached the front door slowly, every carpenter's instinct on high alert. The door was ajar. James pushed it gently and it creaked open. He wasn't prepared for what he saw. The main room had been swept clean. A fire crackled in the stone fireplace he was sure had been broken. 2 young women were frozen in the middle of the room, eyes wide with pure terror. They looked identical. Same short height, same long blonde hair tied in ponytails, same dirt-smudged faces. For a second, nobody moved. Then one of them stepped forward, hands raised in surrender. "Please," her voice trembled, desperate. "Please don't call the police. We'll leave right now. We just needed a place, that's all." "Who are you?" James's voice came out harder than he felt. His head was spinning. These weren't vandals. They were 2 terrified girls. The other twin moved protectively in front of her sister. "We're so sorry. We thought this place was abandoned. We've only been here a few weeks. We didn't damage anything. I swear. We'll pack up and go. Just, please don't call the police." James looked around the room more carefully. The floor had been swept. The broken windows were covered with cardboard and plastic, sealed against the cold. Someone had cleared years of debris. The fireplace wasn't just working. It was clean, like someone had taken the time to make it safe. "How did you know about this house?" he asked. The first twin, the one who had spoken first, hugged herself. She looked young, maybe early 20s. "We're from Silverton, about 10 miles from here. Everybody knew this place. Everybody knew it had been empty for years. We didn't think anyone would. We didn't know someone had bought it." "Daddy!" All 3 turned at once. Amelia stood in the doorway, clutching her stuffed bunny, her brown curls wild around her face. She looked at the 2 women with open curiosity, not fear. "Amelia, I told you to stay in the truck." James moved toward her instinctively. "I know, but it's really cold and I saw the smoke and thought we could have a fire too." She tilted her head, studying the twins. "Are these ladies gonna live with us?" "No, honey," one of the twins said quickly. "We're leaving. We're really sorry. "We'll be gone in 10 minutes." But Amelia had already walked farther inside, her little hand reaching toward the warmth of the fire. "It's nice and warm in here, way better than the truck." She looked at her dad. "You said the fireplace was broken." James felt something shift in his chest. He looked at his daughter, this little girl who had lost her mother 8 months ago, who had slept in cheap motels for weeks, who had watched their entire life sold off piece by piece. Here she stood with such simple, uncomplicated kindness. Then he really looked at the two women. They were terrified. Not just of him, but of something deeper. He recognized it because he had seen it in his own mirror for months. The kind of fear that comes from having nowhere to go and no one to help. "Sit," he said quietly. The twins exchanged glances. "Please," James added, "just sit. We'll figure this out." 20 minutes later, all four of them were sitting around the fire. Amelia had curled up against James's side, fighting sleep but determined to stay awake for whatever came next. The twins sat on the other side, on the edge of an old crate, like they needed to be ready to bolt at any moment. "I'm Olivia," one of them said softly. "This is my sister, Amelia. We're twins, in case it wasn't obvious." "Obvious," Amelia murmured sleepily, and despite everything, Olivia smiled. "I'm James. This is Amelia." He paused. "Tell me how you ended up here." The twins looked at each other in that way twins do, some silent communication passing between them. Then Amelia spoke. "We grew up in Silverton, just the three of us, me, Olivia, and our mom. Our dad left when we were babies. Mom raised us alone. She worked 2 jobs most of our lives." Amelia's voice was steady, but her hands were clasped tightly in her lap. "We both got full-ride scholarships to Colorado State. Olivia studied nursing, I studied agriculture. Mom was so proud." Olivia picked up the thread. "We graduated last December. Everything was perfect. We had job offers, plans, our whole lives ahead of us. Then in February," her voice broke. Amelia continued, filling the silence her sister couldn't. "Early one morning we found her on the kitchen floor. She'd had a massive stroke." She looked at Olivia, whose eyes shone with unshed tears. "Olivia did CPR, called 911. We did everything right, but the doctor said it was too severe. She died in the hospital 3 days later without ever waking up." James felt Amelia grow heavier against him as she finally fell asleep. He adjusted her gently, listening. "We came home to take care of everything," Olivia said, voice hoarse. "We turned down the job offers. We thought it would be temporary, that she'd get better, that we could handle it. We were so naive. It turns out Mom had debt," Amelia said. "She had a small sewing business, bought fabric, made custom clothes. She'd financed industrial machines, owed rent on the studio. When she died, it all came out. $60,000 in debt. The collectors came after everything," Olivia said, wiping her eyes quickly. "The house we lived in was rented, so it wasn't ours. The car was financed, they took it back. We sold every piece of furniture worth anything to try to pay. But it wasn't enough. By April, we had nothing. We were sleeping in a friend's car. Then her car broke down," Amelia continued, "and we couldn't pay to fix it, and she needed it. We had nowhere to go." James absorbed it all in silence. Their story was different from his, but the pain, the sudden loss, the collapse of everything familiar and safe, was something he understood far too well. "We tried shelters," Olivia said, "but they're temporary and dangerous. We needed somewhere we could sleep without fear, where we could keep our diplomas and documents safe. Someone at a farm where we were doing day labor mentioned this place, said it had been abandoned for years. We thought we'd only stay a few weeks," Amelia said, "until we had enough for first and last month's rent somewhere. But every place wanted references, proof of income, a guarantor. It's impossible to get a job without an address. Impossible to get an address without a job. We got stuck. We cleaned everything," Olivia hurried to say. "We fixed the fireplace, sealed the windows. We didn't want it to look like anyone was here in case someone drove by. We just needed somewhere safe." The fire crackled in the silence that followed. James looked at the two women sitting across from him. Two girls who had done everything right. Studied, graduated, honored their mother, only to have everything ripped away by circumstances beyond their control. That he thought of his own story. Sarah dying in that stupid car accident. Losing his construction job 3 months later because he couldn't focus, couldn't pretend everything was fine. Watching his savings evaporate on funeral costs and rent for an apartment too big now that it was just him and Amelia. The shame of admitting he couldn't make it work in Denver anymore. This ranch, this broken-down building with the $45,000 that represented every cent he had left in the world, was the only reason he and Amelia weren't exactly where Olivia and Amelia were right now. "Why did you only come back now?" Olivia asked hesitantly. "It's been 6 weeks since we got here. I bought the place in April," James explained, "but I had to finish my last month of work in Denver and Amelia needed to finish the school year. I left everything locked up, went back to the city, packed our stuff." He looked at his sleeping daughter against his shoulder. "We were going to start over here. I was going to fix the house, pick up carpentry jobs in the area. It is our last chance. We ruined that," Amelia said, voice cracking. "We squatted on your last chance." "No," James heard himself say. "You didn't ruin anything." He looked around the room. Swept clean, windows sealed, fire burning safely. These two girls had taken care of his place, had made it more livable than he'd found it. But more than that, he looked at them, saw the desperation, the fear, but also the dignity. They weren't here out of laziness or opportunism. They were here because the world had collapsed beneath them and they were trying to survive with the tools they had. James knew what that was like. God, he knew exactly what that was like. "You can stay," he said. Total silence. Both twins stared at him like he'd spoken another language. "What?" Olivia whispered. "You can stay," James repeated, voice firmer now. "For now, we'll set some ground rules, figure out how this works." He looked at Amelia sleeping so trustingly in his lap, so safe. "But you can stay." "Sir, we can't accept that," Amelia began, tears already streaming down her face. "We can't just—" "Yes, you can," James interrupted gently. "You cleaned my house, you fixed my fireplace. You made this place more of a home than I could have in the first weeks." He paused. "And more than that, you need help. And I know what it's like to need help and have no one." Olivia covered her face with her hands, shoulders shaking. Amelia pulled her close, the two clinging to each other. "There are conditions," James said, and both looked up at him through tears. "We split expenses when you get work. We share chores and you help me with repairs around here. I saw you know what you're doing." "We can do that," Amelia said immediately. "We can do all of that. And one more thing," James added as he looked at Olivia, who had wiped her eyes and was staring at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Gratitude, yes, but also something more. Some spark of hope he recognized because he felt the same thing igniting in his own chest. "This is temporary for now," he said, "until we figure out a more permanent plan for you. But while you're here, you're safe. No one is going to hurt you. No one is going to take you away from here without a fight. Understood?" Both women nodded, unable to speak. James stood carefully, Amelia heavy in his arms. "We'll figure out the rest tomorrow. For now, everyone needs sleep." As he carried Amelia to one of the bedrooms the twins had cleaned, he heard Amelia whisper to Olivia, "We're going to be okay. For the first time in months, we're really going to be okay." And Olivia, her voice so low James almost didn't hear, "Who is this man?" James laid Amelia on the makeshift bed of blankets the twins had arranged. He looked at his daughter's peaceful sleeping face and thought about Olivia's question. Who was he? A widower? A father? A man who had lost everything and was trying to build something new from the ashes. But maybe, just maybe, he was also someone who could help two strangers who needed exactly what he had to offer, a safe place and a chance to breathe. He didn't know, couldn't yet know, that the decision he had just made would change not only the twins' lives, but his own. That the tired-eyed woman sitting in the living room would become someone he couldn't imagine living without. That this broken ranch would become something far greater than a refuge. But that night all he knew was that he had done the right thing. And for the first time since Sarah died, James Carter felt something besides pain and fear. He felt purpose. Outside the window, The full moon lit up the Rockies and inside the old ranch. For lost souls had found the first thread of something that, with time and care, would become a home. The first week was strange. James would wake in the early hours, as he always did, and find the twins already in the kitchen making coffee. They insisted on making breakfast, washing clothes, cleaning every corner of the house. As if paying invisible rent with labor, he tried to protest. But Olivia would just say, "Please let us help. We need to do something." So he let them. Amelia, on the other hand, had no awkwardness. She would wake up and run to the kitchen yelling, "Good morning, Aunt Olivia. Good morning, Aunt Amelia," as if they had always been there. The twins melted every time, and James saw on their faces something he recognized. The relief of being seen as people, not problems. On the third day, James was on the roof trying to fix broken shingles when he heard footsteps on the makeshift ladder he'd set up. "Need help?" Olivia appeared at the top, tying her blonde hair into a messy bun. "You don't have to." "I know I don't have to," she interrupted. "But I want to. And before you say roof work isn't for nurses, Mom taught us how to fix things. We couldn't afford to call people for everything." James hesitated, then nodded to the space beside him. "All right, but be careful. Some of these shingles are rotten." They worked in silence for a few minutes. James pulling off broken shingles, Olivia handing him new ones. It was an easy, comfortable rhythm. The June sun was warm on their backs. Down below, James could hear Amelia laughing while Amelia taught her to plant seeds in the makeshift garden they'd started. "Why did you do it?" Olivia asked suddenly. James didn't need to ask what she meant. "Do what? Let you stay? You didn't know us. We could have been anything, dangerous scammers. Why risk it?" He set another shingle in place, fingers working on autopilot. "Do you remember how you felt when your mom died?" She was quiet for a moment. "Yeah," James said softly. "I remember too. My wife Sarah died 8 months ago. Car accident on her way home from work. Some drunk ran a red light." His voice was controlled, but his hands trembled slightly. "One second she was alive, texting me that she'd be home for dinner. The next, a cop was at my door. James, I fell apart, stopped functioning, lost my construction job 3 months later because I couldn't concentrate. People looked at me with pity, but no one really helped. You know, they brought food the first few days, then everyone went back to their lives, and I was left drowning." He finally looked at her. "When I saw you two in that room, terrified, begging me not to call the cops, I saw us. I saw good people the world had simply swallowed. And I thought, if someone had given me a chance when I was sinking, maybe I wouldn't have lost everything." Olivia blinked rapidly, fighting tears. "You saved us." "No," James said. "I just opened a door. You saved yourselves. Look at everything you did here before I even arrived." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, leaving a streak of dirt on her cheek. James felt a strange urge to wipe it away but kept his hand still. "You've got dirt right here," he said, pointing to his own face. Olivia laughed, a real laugh, the first he'd heard from her, and tried to wipe it. She missed completely, spreading it more. "Let me?" James reached out without thinking, his thumb gently brushing the mark from her cheek. Time seemed to stop. They were too close. He could see tiny gold flecks in her brown eyes, could feel the warmth of her skin against his thumb. His heart pounded, a different kind of pounding than the fear or grief he'd felt for months. "All clean," he said hoarsely, pulling his hand back. "Thank you," Olivia whispered. The moment shattered when a shingle under her foot creaked dangerously. She slipped, balance lost. James grabbed her instinctively, arms around her waist, pulling her to safety. For a second they froze, chests pressed together, breathing fast, faces inches apart. "You okay?" James asked, not letting go yet. "Yeah," she breathed. You caught me. I'll always catch you," he said, and only then realized the weight of the words. "Down below," Amelia shouted. "Everything okay up there?" James released Olivia, creating safe distance. "All good, just a loose shingle." Olivia was flushed, nervously tucking hair behind her ear. I should. I'll go see if Amelia needs anything. She climbed down fast, and James was left alone with the sun, heart hammering, wondering what the hell had just happened. That night it rained. Not a normal summer rain, but a full mountain thunderstorm. The kind that turned dirt roads into rivers of mud and made the whole house shudder with thunder. Amelia woke up crying, screaming for Mommy, confused in the middle of a nightmare. James ran to her room, turning on the gas lantern he kept charged for emergencies. I'm here, baby. Daddy's here. But Amelia was inconsolable, her little body shaking with heartbreaking sobs. I dreamed Mommy was in the car again. I dreamed the accident. I saw it. You don't have to talk about it. James rocked her, feeling completely helpless. He didn't know how to make the nightmare stop, how to take that pain from his daughter. A soft knock at the door. Olivia stood there holding a candle. Can I come in? James nodded, grateful for any help. Olivia sat on the edge of the bed, eyes gentle as she looked at Amelia. Hey, little one, bad nightmare? Amelia nodded, clinging to her dad. Can I tell you a secret? Olivia said softly. I still have nightmares about my mom almost every night. Amelia looked up with wide, wet eyes. You do? Yeah. And you know what helps me? Olivia held out her hand. I think of all the good things. Every time the nightmare comes, I force my mind to remember one happy moment with my mom, like when she taught me to braid hair or when we had picnics in the park. Can you think of one happy moment with your mommy? Amelia sniffled. She always sang me a song about stars before bed. That's beautiful, Olivia said. So when the nightmare comes, you think of her singing, not the accident. The song, her voice, the stars. But I don't want to forget her, Amelia whimpered. You never will, Olivia promised. The people we love live here. She touched her own chest over her heart, then her forehead. They never really leave, but we get to choose which memories shine brightest, the sad ones or the happy ones. You can choose to remember Mommy smiling instead of sad. Okay? Amelia looked at her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Will you stay till I fall asleep? Olivia glanced at James, who nodded, something tight in his chest. Of course I will, Olivia said, lying down beside Amelia. And tomorrow, if you want, I'll teach you how to braid like my mom taught me. It'll be like passing her gift on. Amelia snuggled against Olivia, eyes already closing. I'd like that. James stood there watching Olivia murmur softly to his daughter, one hand gently stroking Amelia's hair. Something inside him, something that had been frozen since Sarah's death, began to melt. This woman, this stranger he had met only a week ago, understood his daughter in a way he had tried and failed to do, and more than that, she genuinely cared. Not out of obligation or guilt, but because it was who she was. When Amelia finally slept, Olivia slipped carefully out of bed. She and James left the room in silence, leaving the door cracked. Thank you, James said when they reached the kitchen. The rain was still pounding the windows, but softer now. I didn't know what to do. She has these nightmares and I never know. You're doing the best you can, Olivia said gently. You're an amazing dad. She knows she's loved. That's the most important thing. How did you know what to say? He asked. Olivia was quiet for a moment. In nursing school, I did a rotation in pediatrics. Sometimes kids who had lost parents or were really sick. I learned sometimes they just need permission to remember the good things, to not feel guilty for smiling when someone they love is gone. That's exactly it, James said, leaning against the kitchen counter. I feel guilty every time I smile, like I shouldn't be happy when Sarah isn't here. But you should be happy, Olivia said, stepping closer. She would want you to be happy, Amelia to be happy. You honor her memory by living, not by stopping living. Easier said than done. I know. She stopped beside him, both of them looking out the window at the rain. But we try. Every day we try. They stood like that for a while, shoulders almost touching, the silence comfortable between them. James was hyper-aware of her. The faint scent of soap and something floral, the sound of her breathing, the solid presence that somehow made him feel less alone. Olivia? He started, not knowing what he was going to say. She looked up at him, those brown eyes studying him. Yeah. Her phone buzzed, breaking the moment. She pulled it from her pocket and her face paled looking at the screen. "It's an unknown number," she whispered. "But the area code is the collection agency." Reality hit them like cold water. For a moment, in the intimacy of the kitchen during a thunderstorm, they had forgotten. Forgotten the debt, the complications, everything that made this impossible. Olivia let it ring until it stopped. "They always call. Always. How much do you still owe?" James asked. 60,000, she said wearily. "May not sound like much to some people, but to us it's impossible. And they're threatening legal action. What happens if they sue? They can garnish future wages. Basically, if we ever get formal jobs, they take a percentage before we even see the money." She laughed bitterly. "And no one wants to hire someone with active debt in their name. It's an endless cycle." James was quiet, mind working. 60,000. He didn't have that. Barely had enough to fix the ranch, but there had to be a way. "We'll figure it out," he heard himself say. Olivia looked at him in surprise. "James, no, this isn't your problem." "Yes, it is," he said firmly. "You're living here. You're taking care of my daughter, fixing my house. He stopped, searching for the right word. "You're part of this now, and we take care of our own." Tears filled her eyes. "You barely know us. Then I'll get to know you better," he said. "And in the meantime, we solve this debt problem together." Olivia covered her face with her hands, shoulders shaking. James, without thinking, pulled her into a hug. She didn't resist, melting against his chest, sobbing out months of stress and fear and exhaustion. "We're going to be okay," he murmured into her hair. "I promise we're going to be okay." And holding her there, feeling her body tremble against his, James realized something that should have scared him but didn't. He was starting to care about Olivia in a way that went beyond sympathy or kindness. He was starting to feel something he had sworn he would never feel again. The next morning the storm had passed, leaving everything washed clean and fresh. James drove into town for building supplies and came back with something extra. An old rusted metal box he'd found in the dumpster behind the hardware store. "What's that?" Amelia asked when he walked in. "Treasure," James said, opening the box to reveal stacks of old photos and yellowed papers. The store owner said it belonged to the family that lived here before, the Millers. He was going to throw it out, but I thought you might want to see. By 4 o'clock, James, Amelia, Olivia, and Amelia were crowded around the kitchen table flipping through the photos. There were dozens. Big family, parents, and what looked like 8 or 9 kids, all smiling. Scenes of coffee harvests, county fairs, weddings. "Look how many people," Amelia said in wonder. It was a giant family. Amelia turned a photo over on the back, in elegant faded handwriting. "Miller Ranch, 1978. May this place always welcome those who need to start over." The 4 of them sat in silence, absorbing the words. "They knew," Olivia whispered. "They knew this place was special." At that moment, there was a knock at the door. James opened it to find an older man in a straw hat and a gentle smile. Mr. Thompson, he recognized from the feed store. "Come in, please." The old man stepped inside, taking off his hat. His eyes lit up when he saw the photos on the table. "Ah, the Millers. I knew them well." "You did?" Amelia asked, excited. "Will you tell us about them?" Mr. Thompson sat down, accepting the coffee Olivia offered. "Wonderful family. I grew up on the neighboring ranch. The Millers always helped farm workers who had nowhere to stay. During harvest season, whole families would show up looking for work, and the Millers gave them a roof, food, never charged rent. They said God gave the land to be shared." "What happened to them?" James asked. "The kids grew up, moved to the city. The parents passed in the 90s. The ranch sat empty because none of the kids wanted to come back to the mountains." Mr. Thompson looked around nostalgically. "But I always knew when the right person showed up, the spirit of this place would come back." He looked at James, then the twins, then Amelia. "Looks like the right place found the right people again." After Mr. Thompson left, Olivia held the photo with the inscription, fingers tracing the words. "We didn't break in," she said softly. We just continued what they started. James looked at her, at Amelia playing with the old photos. And he thought, yes, they were continuing something. Something bigger than any of them. Something like family. But on the edge of it all, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. He opened it. A court officer will visit this property within 72 hours seeking Olivia and Amelia Brooks. Notice of pending legal action. James's stomach dropped at 72 hours. 3 days before everything could fall apart, he looked at Olivia, who was laughing at something Amelia had said, her face finally relaxed and happy. No, he thought fiercely. Not after everything. Not when they've finally found peace. He would protect them. Somehow he would find a way. He just hoped 3 days was enough time. James didn't tell Olivia about the message. Not right away. He stayed up all night, phone in hand, rereading those words. A court officer will visit this property within 72 hours. His mind raced through options. He could hide the twins, lie and say he'd never seen them. But no, that would only delay the inevitable. And he wasn't a liar. Early the next morning, before the twins were awake, James drove to the nearby town to find Father Michael, a young priest Mr. Thompson had mentioned who helped the area's forgotten. The little white church had an old bell tower. James found Father Michael in the back watering a community garden. Father Michael, the priest turned, maybe 30, round glasses, warm smile. Good morning, son. How can I help? James told him everything. The twins' story, the debt, the notice, the 3 days they had. Father Michael listened in silence, face growing more serious. $60,000 in inherited debt, the priest repeated when James finished. And they never signed anything accepting the inheritance? Not that I know of. Their mom died and the creditors just went after them as heirs. Father Michael nodded thoughtfully. There's a lawyer in Durango, Mr. Henderson, who does pro bono work for cases like this. Let me call him. 2 hours later, James drove back to the ranch with something he hadn't had when he left. Hope.mr. Henderson had said there were legal loopholes. If the twins had never formally accepted the inheritance, they might not be legally responsible. But they needed documentation, time, a fixed address to receive official mail. And that's the problem, James thought as he parked the truck. The twins had no fixed address. Legally, they were homeless. Unless an idea began to form. Risky, complicated, but possible. He found Olivia in the yard hanging clothes on the makeshift line Amelia had set up. The afternoon sun lit up her blonde hair, and for a moment James just watched, his heart doing that strange thing again. I need to talk to you, he said. Olivia turned and immediately saw something on his face. What happened? He showed her the phone with the message, watched the color drain from her face. 72 hours, she whispered. They're going to take us. No, James said firmly. Not if I can help it. But I need you to trust me. That night, after Amelia was asleep, the 4 of them sat at the kitchen table. James explained everything. The visit to Father Michael, the conversation with Mr. Henderson, the possibility of fighting the debt legally. But there's a problem, he said. You need a fixed address. You need to be legal residents somewhere to receive official notices and have standing to contest. We don't have that, Amelia said, voice breaking. That's why we're in this mess. You would, James said slowly, if I registered you as permanent residents here on the ranch. Total silence. Both twins stared at him. But that would mean, Olivia began. It would mean you officially live here, James finished. Not as temporary squatters, but as residents. I'd sign a lodging agreement, basically saying you have legal permission to live here. With that, you'd have an address, could receive official mail, could fight the debt properly. James, that puts you at risk, Olivia said immediately. If we have legal trouble and you register us here, then I deal with it, he said simply. But you two are not facing this alone. Not when I can do something about it. Amelia was crying silently. Why would you do this? She asked. Why keep helping us? James looked at Olivia and something passed between them. Something unspoken but deeply felt. Because you matter, he said. You matter to me. You matter to Amelia. And families take care of each other. Family, Olivia repeated the word softly, like testing its weight. Family, James confirmed. The court officer arrived exactly 72 hours later. As promised, a middle-aged man with a clipboard and the weary expression of someone who had seen everything. James Carter? He asked when James answered the door. Yes, sir. I'm looking for Olivia Brooks and Amelia Brooks. I have notification of legal action. They're here, James said calmly, and they're expecting you. Come in, please. If the officer was surprised by the cooperation, he didn't show it. He followed James into the living room where Olivia and Amelia sat, back straight, hands clasped. Olivia and Amelia Brooks? That's us, Olivia said, voice steady despite trembling hands. The officer handed over the papers. You are hereby notified of legal action filed by Quick Credit LLC regarding inherited debt in the amount of $60,000. We know, Amelia said. You have 30 days to respond. Failure to respond will result in default judgment and possible garnishment of assets and future wages. He glanced around the simple room. Do you have legal representation? Yes. A new voice.mr. Henderson stepped through the door, Father Michael right behind. James had asked them to come. I'm their attorney, Daniel Henderson. The officer blinked, surprised. You already have counsel? We do, Mr. Henderson said, taking the papers and scanning them, and we will contest vigorously. My clients never formally accepted the inheritance. Therefore, the debt is not legally transferable, but that will be for the courts to decide. After the officer left, the tension broke. Amelia collapsed onto the couch. Olivia covered her face with her hands, shoulders shaking. Is it over? Amelia asked from the doorway, where she had been watching everything. No, little one, Father Michael said gently, but it's the beginning of the end. Now we can fight properly. James pulled Olivia to her feet and hugged her, not caring who was watching. He felt her body tremble, felt her tears soak his shirt. You weren't alone, he murmured. I promised you wouldn't be alone. The following week was strange in a different way. With the legal process moving, there was urgency, but also purpose.mr. Henderson needed documents, statements, proof the twins had never accepted the inheritance. Olivia and Amelia spent hours going through papers, signing forms. James worked on the ranch during the day and helped at night. All of them crowded around the kitchen table like college students cramming for finals. But something else was happening. Something between James and Olivia neither was ready to name. The glances that lasted a second too long. The accidental touches that became intentional. The way. He looked for her first when he walked into a room. The way she smiled differently when he was near. Amelia noticed, of course. Twin sisters always notice. You like him? She said to Olivia one afternoon while folding laundry. No, Olivia protested weakly. I'm just grateful. That's not gratitude on your face when you look at him, Amelia said, smiling. It's okay, Liv. He's a good man. He's still grieving his wife, Olivia said quietly. And even if he weren't, I'm a mess. I have $60,000 in debt. No job, nothing to offer. You have you to offer, Amelia interrupted. And that's more than enough. You think he did all this just out of kindness, Liv? He looks at you the same way you look at him. Olivia didn't answer, but her heart raced with possibility. The opportunity came unexpectedly. Dr. Roberts, the veterinarian Mr. Thompson had mentioned, showed up one afternoon looking for James for a small carpentry job at his clinic. But when he saw Olivia helping clean a wound on a stray dog Amelia had found, he stopped. You know what you're doing? He observed. I'm a registered nurse, Olivia said without thinking. Or I was before. Well, we need help at the clinic, Dr. Roberts said immediately. Nothing official yet. I can't hire you on the books until your legal situation and address are settled. But day work, cash pay. Would you be interested? Olivia looked at James, who nodded encouragingly. I'd love to, she said, voice trembling with hope. Meanwhile, Amelia had reconnected with a former agriculture professor. When he heard her situation, he offered an informal research project on rehabilitating degraded soil. Exactly the kind of land the ranch had. It's almost like, Amelia said one night at dinner, Everything is falling into place. It really is, James agreed, looking across the table at Olivia. She looked back and the moment stretched, heavy with unspoken things. The turning point came 2 weeks later. Not dramatically, but quietly James had taken Olivia to watch the sunset from the highest point on the property, a steep climb through the abandoned coffee fields. "We need to discuss the soil revitalization project," he had said, but both knew it was an excuse. They sat at the top, watching the sun paint the Rockies in fire. Colors. The valley stretched below them, the ranch a small white spot in the green. "It's beautiful here," Olivia said softly. "Yeah," James agreed, but he was looking at her, not the view. She caught him and blushed. "What?" "Nothing. I just—" He hesitated, then decided to be honest. "I didn't expect this." "Expect what?" You too. All of this." He gestured vaguely. "When I bought this place, I thought it would just be me and Amelia starting over. I didn't expect to find more," Olivia finished, heart racing. James turned to face her fully. "Olivia, I need to tell you something and you might think it's too soon or too complicated, but I can't keep it in anymore." "James," she started, but he went on. "I know it's soon. I know it's complicated. You have legal battles. I'm still processing Sarah's death. But I can't pretend I don't feel anything for you." His voice was low, intense. "Every time you walk into a room, I look for you first. Every time you smile at Amelia, my heart does this weird thing. I think about you when I wake up and before I sleep." And Olivia interrupted, eyes shining with tears. "Stop." He stopped, heart sinking. "Sorry, I shouldn't have." "No," she said, stepping closer. "Stop, because I need to say something too." He went still, barely breathing. "I'm so scared," she whispered. "Scared that I'm just another broken thing you're trying to fix. Scared that when the legal stuff is over and I'm stable, you'll realize it wasn't real, that it was just circumstances. Scared that I'm just a refugee you feel sorry for." "You're not broken," James said fiercely, taking her hands. "You're the strongest person I've ever met. You lost everything and still find strength to help my daughter with nightmares. You work every day without complaining. You smile even when you're terrified. And I don't feel sorry for you. I admire you, care about you. I think—" He took a deep breath. "I think I'm falling in love with you." Tears ran down Olivia's face now. "And if I'm just another loss waiting to happen, then it's worth the risk," he said simply. "Because having you in my life, even with the fear, is better than not having you at all." Olivia let out a sound between laugh and sob. "You always know what to say." "Never," he admitted. "I'm making it all up as I go. But this," he squeezed her hands, "this is the truest thing I've felt in months." She looked at him for a long moment. This man who had opened his door when she was most desperate, who had fought for her when she had given up, who looked at her like she was whole instead of broken. "Me too," she whispered. "I'm falling in love with you too, and it terrifies me." "We can be terrified together," James said, one hand rising to cup her face. "We can be honest about what we're feeling?" "I'd like that," Olivia breathed. "Can I kiss you?" he asked, thumb tracing her jawline. "Please?" He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. She didn't. She leaned in too, and when their lips finally met, it was soft and sweet and full of promise. The kiss deepened, months of tension and fear and hope pouring into it. Her hands rose to his hair. His arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her close. It was a kiss of new beginnings, of scars starting to heal, of two broken hearts learning to love again. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathless, foreheads resting, together. "So," Olivia said, voice husky, "we do this? We try." "We try," James confirmed. Slow, honest, scary and all. "Scary and all," she echoed and smiled, a real, full smile that lit up her whole face. They stayed there on the hilltop as the sun finished setting, hands linked, the future uncertain but for the first time feeling possible. When they walked back to the ranch, they found Amelia on the porch. Amelia was braiding Amelia's hair, teaching her the way Olivia had promised weeks ago. "Finally?" Amelia said when she saw them, a mischievous smile on her face. "I thought you two would never stop dancing around each other." "Amelia," Olivia protested, cheeks red. "What? It's been obvious for weeks." She finished Amelia's braid and patted the girl's shoulder. "What do you think, kiddo? Your dad and Olivia." Amelia looked between them, then grinned huge. "Does that mean Aunt Liv is going to be like a mommy now?" The silence that followed was heavy. James knelt in front of his daughter, pulling Olivia down with him. "Amelia, sweetheart, no one will ever replace your mommy," he said gently. "Mommy will always be your mommy, and she will always be special." "I know," Amelia said, surprisingly matter-of-fact. "But we can have two kinds of mommies, right? One born me and one chose to stay." Olivia made a strangled sound, tears streaming down her face. She pulled Amelia into a hug. "I would be so honored," she whispered. "So honored to be in your life that way. If you let me," Amelia said, snuggling in. "You do pretty braids, and you don't yell when I ask too many questions." Everyone laughed through tears, and James looked around at these three people. His daughter, the woman he was learning to love, her sister who had become family too. This wasn't what he had planned. It was nothing he had imagined when he bought this broken ranch. It was better, so much better. That night, after Amelia slept, the four adults sat on the porch. Amelia had news. "Tyler called," she said, barely containing her excitement. "He wants to expand the community garden project, and he asked if I'd have dinner with him this weekend." "Tyler?" James asked. "The agronomist working with her on soil recovery," Olivia explained, nudging her sister. "And who clearly likes her." Amelia blushed. "I don't know if it's like that." "It is," Olivia and James said in unison, then laughed. Then Amelia said after a moment, "We're really doing this, rebuilding everything here together." "Looks like it," James said, taking Olivia's hand. "The Millers would be proud," Olivia said quietly, thinking of the inscription on the photo. "May this place always welcome those who need to start over." "We're not just starting over," James said, looking at each of them. "We're building something new, something ours." And there, under the stars of the Rockies, with the old ranch around them, for people who had lost everything found something precious. They found each other, found home, and found hope that sometimes the strongest families aren't the ones we're born into, but the ones we build, brick by brick, choice by choice, act of courage by act of courage. The journey wasn't over. The legal process was still ongoing. The ranch still needed a lot of work, and all of them still carried scars from what they had lost. But for the first time in a long time, the future didn't just feel possible. It felt bright. 3 months later, the verdict came. James was fixing fence in the corral when he saw Mr. Henderson driving up the dirt road, a large envelope in hand and a huge smile on his face. His heart raced, with fear or hope. He wasn't sure. "James!" Mr. Henderson waved. "Where are the girls?" "In the house." James dropped the hammer and ran. "Olivia! Amelia!" Everyone gathered on the porch. James, Olivia, Amelia, Amelia. Even Mr. Thompson, who had come to help plant coffee.mr. Henderson opened the envelope with deliberate drama. "The judge ruled in your favor," he announced. Silence for one heartbeat. Then Amelia screamed. Olivia collapsed in tears. Amelia jumped up and down without fully understanding but feeling the energy, and James simply pulled Olivia into his arms and held her while she shook. The debt was ruled non-transferable, Mr. Henderson explained, voice thick with emotion. "You never formally accepted the inheritance. Therefore, you cannot be held responsible for your mother's business debts. The case has been dismissed with prejudice." "It's over," Olivia repeated through tears, as if testing the weight of the word. "You're completely free," Mr. Henderson confirmed. "Your names are clean. You can open bank accounts, get formal jobs, truly start over." Amelia hugged her sister, both crying and laughing at once. Mr. Thompson discreetly wiped his eyes. Amelia hugged Olivia's and James's legs. James watched it all with a heart so full it hurt. These women, these incredible, strong women, finally had the freedom they deserved. "There's one more thing," Mr. Henderson said, pulling out another paper. "I filed for damages against the collection agency for illegal harassment." It's not guaranteed, but there's a good chance you'll receive compensation. How much? Amelia dared to ask. If we win, probably between 10 and 20,000 split between you. It wasn't a fortune, but it was a beginning. It was dignity. It was justice. Thank you, Olivia said to Mr. Henderson, voice breaking. Thank you for believing in us when no one else did. Don't thank me, he said, looking at James. Thank this man who had the courage to give you what you needed to fight. A place to stand. That night, they had a simple but joyful celebration. Barbecue in the backyard, music from an old speaker, Amelia running between the adults with endless energy. Mrs. Wilson from the general store brought homemade cornbread. Dr. Roberts showed up with his wife and officially offered Olivia a formal contract at the clinic. Father Michael blessed the house and declared that God indeed writes straight with crooked lines. And this story was proof, and Tyler, the agronomist who had been working with Amelia, arrived with real flowers he had driven to town to buy. Amelia turned beet red but accepted them with a smile that lit up brighter than the string lights in the yard. It feels like a wedding, Amelia commented, watching everything. Not yet, Olivia said, ruffling her hair. But who knows, one day. She looked at James and he looked back with that now familiar expression that said, I choose you every day. After most guests had gone, James pulled Olivia away from the lights to the orchard at the back of the property where Amelia had planted a sapling months ago. The little tree was growing well, small but strong. This is Mommy's tree, Olivia said softly, touching the leaves. Amelia plants a new seed every week and says it's her mommy growing again. It's a beautiful way to remember, James said. You taught her that, how to honor the past while moving forward. You're an incredible dad. I'm trying. Then he took a deep breath. Olivia, I need to ask you something. She turned to face him and something in his expression made her heart race. James reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, worn velvet box. It wasn't new. The corners were frayed, clearly old. He opened it to reveal a simple gold ring with a tiny stone. This was my grandmother's ring, he said, voice shaking. My mom gave it to me before she passed. Told me to save it for when I found someone who made my world make sense again. He paused. I know it's fast. I know we've only had a few months together. But I also know I've already spent enough of my life wasting chances. And you, Olivia Brooks, are the best chance I've ever had. Tears were already streaming down Olivia's face. I'm not asking you to forget our pasts, James continued. Sarah will always be part of me. Your mom will always be part of you. But I'm asking you to build a new future together. Me, you, Amelia, this strange, beautiful family we've made. He dropped to one knee there in the dirt they had worked together, under the tree Amelia had planted in memory. Olivia, will you marry me? She covered her mouth with both hands, sobbing and laughing at once. Yes, she managed. Yes, 1,000 times yes. James slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. As if it had always been hers, he stood and kissed her deeply, while the moon bathed everything in silver and the crickets sang. And somewhere near the house Amelia shouted, I knew it! Because she had clearly followed them. They broke apart laughing and Olivia shouted back, You're supposed to be asleep. How could I sleep on the night you become my real mom? Amelia yelled, and Olivia collapsed into fresh tears. Because this perfect child had just called her mom. Amelia came running, Tyler right behind, and they hugged Olivia while she showed off the ring, everyone talking and laughing and crying at once, and James stood there watching his family. Not the one he was born into, but the one he had chosen, the one he had built brick by brick. And he thought maybe life isn't about the plans we make, but about who we find when everything falls apart. 6 months later, on a sunny Saturday in December, James and Olivia were married. It wasn't extravagant. The ceremony was in the ranch yard, right where the party had been months before. Father Michael officiated, of course. Mr. Thompson walked Olivia down the aisle because he had become exactly that kind of father figure to the twins. Amelia was the maid of honor in a blue dress she had sewn herself, the skill passed down from her mother living on. Tyler was best man, and the way he looked at Amelia made it clear there would be another wedding soon, and Amelia was the flower girl, taking her duties very seriously, holding the rings like they were the world's greatest treasure. Olivia was breathtaking in a simple white dress, wildflowers in her hair, barefoot in the grass because she said she wanted to feel the ranch beneath her feet. When it came time for vows, James took her hands and said, "Olivia, when I bought this ranch I thought I was buying a hideout, a place to escape the pain. But you taught me that real homes aren't about running away, they're about having the courage to let people in. You walked into my life literally uninvited." The crowd laughed. "And became the most important thing in it. I promise to love you on the easy days and the hard ones. I promise to honor your past while we build our future. And I promise never, ever to make you feel alone in this world again, because you never will be. You have me, Amelia, and this whole strange, wonderful community. You have home." Olivia was crying so hard she could barely speak her vows. But when she did, she said, "James, when you found me I had lost everything. My mother, my home, my dignity. I was literally living in an abandoned house, terrified of being arrested for daring to seek shelter. You saw me at my absolute worst and chose to see humanity instead of a problem. You gave me more than a roof. You gave me back my life. And in return, all I can offer is this: my whole heart, my complete loyalty, and the promise that I will love you and Amelia with every piece of who I am. Thank you for opening that door. Thank you for letting us stay. Thank you for loving me when I thought I would never be loved again." There wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. When Father Michael pronounced them husband and wife, James kissed Olivia while everyone cheered and Amelia yelled, "Finally!" making everyone laugh. The party went late into the night. Mrs. Wilson brought enough food to feed an army. Dr. Roberts played guitar. Mr. Thompson told stories about the old Miller Ranch, drawing parallels to the new family that had blossomed there. And at some point when the moon was high and most guests had gone, Amelia took Olivia's hand. Olivia Carter now and said, "Can I plant a tree for you too? To show you grew here with us." Olivia knelt in front of her, framed the little face with her hands and said, "I would love that, my daughter." And Amelia grinned huge and said, "That's the first time you called me daughter." "It won't be the last," Olivia promised. 1 year after the wedding, almost 2 years since that first night James had seen smoke rising from the chimney, life had settled into a beautiful, chaotic rhythm. Olivia worked 3 days a week at Dr. Roberts' clinic and 2 days at the rural health post, finally using her nursing degree. Amelia had turned part of the ranch into a thriving community garden that supplied half the county. She and Tyler had gotten engaged at Christmas. James had grown his carpentry business and now had 2 local helpers. The ranch was fully renovated, new roof, painted walls, working plumbing, and the coffee plants, with their devoted care, had produced their first proud harvest. Amelia was 8 now, confident and happy, calling Olivia Mom Liv to distinguish from Mommy Sarah, a system she had invented herself, and that worked perfectly for her. She had photos of Sarah in her room, told school friends stories about her, and also had Olivia for braids, band-aids, and talks about dumb boys at school. She had 2 mothers, one in heaven, one at home, and her heart was big enough for both. One Saturday afternoon, the whole family was gathered on the porch. James and Olivia on the swing, Amelia reading at their feet, Amelia and Tyler planning their wedding at the corner table. "You remember?" Olivia said softly to James. "That first night when you walked in and saw us?" "I remember everything," he said. "You were terrified. Amelia was trying to protect you, and I was so confused. I thought you were going to kick us out," she admitted. "I thought my life was over." "And it was," James said. When she looked at him surprised, he smiled. "Your old life was over, and a new one, better one, began." "So much better," she agreed, kissing him softly. "You," Amelia commented without looking up from her book, "you guys are gross." "You'll think it's beautiful when you're older," Amelia called from the table. "Never," Amelia yelled back, but she was smiling. James looked around at his wife, his daughter, her sister who had become his sister too, his future brother-in-law, the ranch that had saved them and that they had saved in return. "We built something beautiful here," he said quietly. "We did," Olivia agreed. "From nothing. From ashes and desperation and one open door you had the courage to leave open." "Best decision I ever made," he said. "Second best," she corrected, poking him. The first was proposing. He laughed and pulled her close, and they rocked gently while the sun set over the Rockies, painting everything in gold and promise. That old inscription on the Miller photo had been right. May this place always welcome those who need to start over, and it had welcomed a broken father and his scared little girl. It had welcomed two sisters who had lost everything. It had welcomed all of them and turned them into family. The ranch would keep welcoming. James had decided. They had plans, when they were more stable, to open a program to help others in vulnerable situations, to give others the same chance they had been given. But that night, all that mattered was this point: four people who had found each other when they needed it most, building a life together one day at a time, one choice at a time, one act of love at a time. "Daddy," Amelia said suddenly, closing her book, "do you think Mommy Sarah is happy with all this?" James felt the familiar ache in his chest, but now it came with warmth too. "I think so, baby. I think she'd love Mom Liv. She'd think you're the most amazing girl in the world. And my mom," Olivia added softly. "She'd love knowing I found a family, that Amelia found one. It's all she ever wanted for us. So everyone in heaven is happy," Amelia concluded with child-simple logic. "And everyone down here too. That's good," James agreed, eyes meeting Olivia's, full of love and gratitude and wonder at the strange, beautiful path life had taken. "That's really good." And as the stars began to appear one by one in the Colorado sky, the family that had been built from hope and courage and open doors settled in for one more day tomorrow. One more day of hard work and gentle love and brave choices. One more day of home. One more day of family. One more day of the most beautiful life any of them could have imagined. Fim de Histria. Col tudo junto e vidar exatamente 1 hora de leitura.